Right, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wheel Talk, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a girl in a wheelchair. And today we have a very special guest called Steve. And Steve had an epidural stimulator fitted back in 2019. And I'm very, very excited to hear about lots of developments that have been happening. I've got loads of questions. But before we crack into that, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself? Hello.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. My name's Steve. Like you said, I live in Alberta here in Edmonton. That's how I know Brittany. We actually met way back in like 2010 or 11.
I don't know. It's been a long time.
It's been a while, so we've known each other for a while. I am a wheelchair user, obviously, with the Epidural stimulator. I was injured in a motorcycle accident, June 15th of 2010, and yeah, so
it's like your anniversary just passed.
It just passed, yeah. So yeah, no, it's good. I work with Coloplast actually, so I'm a territory manager, and I do education with catheters for nurses, and I think a big part of that is spreading the word and educating them on proper catheters and what it takes for people that they then turn that into education for the patients, right? So. Yeah. I think that's important. I've been there for like 4 years now. I love it. I love my job. I love doing it. I love talking about it. Catheter is such a big part of my life. So, it's great.
Well, thanks for coming on here. I'm, constantly asking my friends that have experiences with things that come up on the podcast if they'll come on. And I'm really lucky to have some amazing friends just in my local area. I know that I talk to some people that don't know anybody in a wheelchair in their local area, and I'm so blessed to know so many cool people. So, we can get started. I guess like the first question I have is just, how did you even get an epidural stimulator? Like, what was the process like? How did you find out about it? All of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So it was way back in 2018, December actually of 2018 was probably the first time I started to hear about it. We were doing an FES, functional electrical stimulation conference, and I'm a big FES user. I have a bike. I use it every day. And one of the doctors that was there presenting was actually presenting on a clinical trial out of Minneapolis called eStand. And they were just talking about, it was brand new at the time. They had only enrolled 3 people into the trial. And when I heard him talk about, what epidural stimulation was, because back then it was fairly new, right? I knew right away that this is something that I would like to take part in. So after his speech and after he talked all about it, I quickly cornered him and was like, listen, like, how do I get involved? How do I get, how do I become a patient or somebody that this would work for? Because it is out of the States. Are they accepting people from Canada? Is this like a worldwide thing? What are the recommendations, qualifications, everything like that? So that's where the conversation began. And then it was months and months later until, I finally had the opportunity to go through the process of being enrolled in this clinical trial. And it was a long process. It took about 6 months before I finally was able to even get down there and sit in front of them and have them assess me, my body, my my injury, everything. So it was all about getting my medical records from like almost birth, because they wanted to know my health, right? In these clinical trials, they really wanted to succeed, right? They wanted to be successful. So they want to make sure they're picking the best possible candidates that are applying. So they vet through a lot of people, and they said they had a lot of interest, obviously, right, from the community. So that was kind of the process. A lot of MRIs prior to my meeting with them, X-rays, all my, like I said, my files, all the doctors. And then eventually, once they went over those, we were able to sit down and decide on a date where I can go down. And one of the other big criteria was money, because they are paying for the epidural stimulator as a trial, but they needed to make sure that you can afford, because part of the trial was going down there once a month. So I would have to go down, and they would do assessments, and they would adjust the stimulator and I find that out later on, and we can get into that later. But yeah, so part of that was like, do you have a job? Are you financially secure? Are you going to be able to continue on? Because the trial was a year-long trial that you would have to be enrolled in.
Yeah, because they don't want people to get into the trial and then, like, 2 months down the road, get the stimulator and then be like, oh, I can't afford to actually travel down for all of the assessments. So they wanted the candidates to be able to continue long term, I bet.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? And I think a part of the reason why, I want to be part of a trial like this is to kind of to support what they're doing so that it'll get better for maybe not our generation even, but the next generation, right? Yeah. So if we're not doing this, how do we ever learn? How does the doctors, how do they figure out how to make these better for us, right?
I have a question, Steve. What sort of criteria were they looking for when like how did you get picked? Were they looking for people with incomplete injuries that were more likely to walk again so they could show it off, or tell me a little bit more about the criteria?
Great question. Yeah. So when it came to complete or incomplete, that was never something that ever came up. I know like it was on my medical records, but they never really spoke too much about it or questioned that. I think ideally they want a complete injury because so like if you can heal or give somebody that has a complete injury a function back, maybe somebody with an incomplete, then it's just not that it's guaranteed that it'll work for them, but it's the chances are better, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Can you remind us what your injury is? Is it incomplete or complete?
Yeah, so it's a T5 complete injury. Yeah. So prior to this, it was I had no sensation, no feeling, nothing below that level, right? Chest level.
Okay, so once you got enrolled into the program, what was it like getting the epidural stimulator? Like, was it a big surgery? Was it a large recovery time? Or was it like simple? Like, explain that sort of process.
Yeah. So this is the way they explained it prior. So it was a day surgery. I went in the morning. I left that afternoon, sore, but I was able to go home. So when they explain what they're doing, so they're opening up your spine. They're putting the epidural like directly on like the dura portion of the spinal cord, right? So not right on it, but over top of it. And then there's a cord that leads down, and there's a battery that sits in my lower hip, closer to my back. Okay, and the idea is that what they would do is they're trying to stimulate the nerves below the level at different levels to get different types of sensations or movement, anything like that. That was the whole goal. So when they do the surgery, it just added to the scar on my back. Basically, they just extended that down, put it on. There's, like I said, the little battery inside. So it was pretty quick. I had to stay down there because it was in Minneapolis. We did the surgery. We did the day, went home, slept. The next morning, I had to go right back to the clinic. And then we did some testing. But even right after the surgery, like when I was laying in bed in recovery, they turned it on immediately. And they started to work on it right away. They started to like test it, make sure that it was functioning properly. Right. So on the paddle that they put on the dura, I think there's this is tough. I think there was like a 12 channel or 32 channel. Originally the 12, and then mine was like a 32 channel. So 32 different spots that they can adjust your stim to stim in different areas for different nerves, for different movements and things. So what they want to do, they want to make sure that they didn't have to move it, up or down on my spinal cord, like making sure that it's like controlling the right side and the left side of the legs and things like that, right? So when they turn it on my legs, it worked right away where they the muscles would tense up immediately, right?
Wow.
And then the next day was all about starting to dorsiflex and things like that, and controlling and finding out how to control that movement, right?
So the idea is that it's bridging the gap between the good part of your nerves and to put it to the other side of the scar tissue, to the other side of your spinal cord injury, essentially, right?
Yeah, actually, you're right. That's it. I didn't really explain that. So it's not going over top of where my injury is. It's below. So it sits at about T10, T11,
Okay.
T12 area, and that's where your the nerves for your lower extremities sit, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, no
Yeah.
way.
So it's just it's basically just like trying to take over the job of the gap or whatever in the damaged nerves, from what I understand, anyway. But I wasn't sure what that looked like. If they have to like test the nerves on this side and test the nerves on this side to see if they're like functional or whatever, so that they hook it up to a correct nerve like root or whatever that's still functional and not damaged. But I'm sure that they probably did that in the surgery when they were putting it in.
When they're putting it in, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they told me too as well. Is like that's how they're gonna know is because I'm gonna my legs will move, right? Depending on where they're putting it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. So, when they put it in and they first turned it on, you felt it straight away and you were able to move? Like,
yeah. So like I was laying down in recovery, right?
Yeah.
And when they turned it on, what happened was like the stim immediately tensed up all the muscles in my legs and like pulled them up towards like not quite to my chest, but like if you're laying down, your knees are up and your feet are down like that immediately, right? So that let them know.
Was it similar to spasticity?
Yeah, similar to it. Yeah, I mean,
was it voluntary or was it like involuntary?
It was involuntary at the time. Yeah.
So like a big spasm.
Yeah, right? Because of the shock to the nerves, the system that hasn't had that sensation in forever, right?
My question is like when you got this and they connect it, what do they do to help you connect your brain, like so that it's voluntary? Like what was that like? Did they give you specific exercises or like what did that look like?
Yeah, 100%. So like I was saying, you'd have to go back every month, right?
Okay.
And the idea when you would go back is to try and get the accuracy of like the stim. So there was like 15 different settings, right? So let me start over. They sent me home with an iPad or right? And I think it was like a Galaxy, Samsung, whatever.
Yeah.
Like they're all the same. Maybe don't say that to somebody that has an iPhone or a Samsung, but anyways. Yeah. So you go home with that and they would give you exercises to do.
Oh,
and
okay.
And you would have to do certain exercises every single day where you're doing dorsiflexes or trying to kick, swing your legs, whatever it is, right? And then you would give a survey. After every day, you would do like a survey of whatever setting you were on for that week. So each week I would have a different setting and then I would examine that setting through testing and doing workouts. We call them workouts. And then I would give feedback on each of those settings. And then they would adjust that setting the next month to what I liked and what I didn't like, what worked and what didn't work. And we would try and get the best like movement, right? So the idea is over time, if you keep doing those movements and you keep working out, that you're waking up the nerves through stim and through therapy, right?
Yeah. How long did the exercises take during the day? Like, was it like an arduous process or was it like half an hour?
Yeah, like it was like 10 minutes. You just sat on the edge of the bed and I would have to do a certain amount of exercises for like a 10-minute. Yeah.
Oh, and so that's not even that bad.
No, it was very easy, but it was also, you start to notice as the settings got better and better control, better movement, better like, and when I say control, like it was some swinging, kicking, but mostly just like being able to like dorsiflex your ankles, right? Being able to be in control of those. I remember just seeing it for the first time and feeling like I was actually controlling it, where it was like, holy smokes, like this is something different. Like this is they're on to something here, right?
That's really cool.
I have a question. How long every day was it switched on for? Was it switched on, you did the physiotherapy, then you switch it off, or was it just on all the time?
I just left it on all the time. I still do. I still use it. I use it every day. I never turn it off. The only downside was like probably by year. So I had the surgery in, I think it was like March of 2019. And by 2020, during COVID, the battery died. So I, part of it being the trial and COVID and not being able to travel, and like that kind of interrupted my whole experience with the trial. So I didn't get a full year's in worth of like assessing the parameters and kind of getting the best out of it. But what I did get was great at the time. But then when the battery died, I had to get a surgery for a new battery. And the time that it was down was very noticeable, because like a lot of things, like a lot of muscle tone when laying down or spasticity, it started coming back, and it was like hard to get used to that again, because it'd been so long that I hadn't had to worry about that. Because one of the benefits was that like I had reduced spasticity and tone, which was like makes it easier for travel, right? On a plane, I find like when I'm on a plane and I like get off the plane, I used to be like my muscles were so stiff, and like, right, I get a ton of tone getting into my chair and stuff. So even the first time flying back from Minneapolis that day, and I transferred on the aisle chair, and I got in my chair, and I was like, wow, that was easy. No spasticity, no tone.
Yes.
Yeah. Like immediately changing, life changing, right? Just that alone was enough to be like,
yeah.
That's amazing. Fred is like thinking, oh my God, I need an epidural stimulator, because he's got the worst spasticity in his legs. What, like so bad?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's the worst. I've seen worse on the internet. It's just my biggest complaint personally, because I suffer with it every day. Like you know, the tone, the spasms, the involuntary movements. It's a pain in the ass. And that was one of my burning questions for you, is like, does it help with the secondary complications? Like, does it make the spasms easier? Does it help with nerve pain? Does it help with like bowel movements, or, you know, bladder or anything like that, you know? Because that would be just such a relief for me. If it meant just literally a decrease in spasticity, it would be worth it for me. But also, you know, increase in mobility and just general healing, if you like, that would be a bonus on top. So yeah, Steve, please tell me more about that.
I mean, yeah. So for sure, the spasticity was one of the biggest things I noticed right away. Being able to sleep through the night without waking up, kicking your legs, was like, it felt like I slept for the first time in 8 years or whatever it was when I had the surgery, right? Other than that too, was one of the biggest things I noticed was body temperature control. So not overheating or not being freezing cold all night, right? So typically in the winter in Edmonton, it's freezing. If you get cold, you're outside all night, then you go home, you lay in bed, and you're like 4 or 5 blankets deep, and you're just huddled up because your body won't warm up. I never have that issue anymore. Even like sweating below my injury now is like something that's like very common, or sweating, like it just changed. So that was different. As far as like being able to utilize it for like transfers, or like, plant your legs or anything, like as far as like movement wise, I never maybe got to that point, because where the trial and COVID kind of left it, right? I think with rehab or better therapy, there's definitely potential there for it to improve maybe transfers, things like that, little bits. Bowel, bladder, maybe not so much that I noticed. So a lot of the parameter setting, like the settings would be like for movement or for like autonomic settings, they would call them. So I had 5 of them where you would use those settings for different situations, like bowel and bladder, sleeping, things like that, right?
Really?
And then the other 10 settings were all like movement type settings. And they're still set up like that to this day. But to be honest, like the autonomic settings, I never found for me, like they worked very well, right? I typically stuck with like the other ones, the settings for like movement or spasticity control, or right, those little things.
So you have to change the settings on the iPad and to do different things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So like
crazy.
you get also like a little controller I don't have it with me. I didn't think of it, but it's just a little controller and it would connect to the battery. It's just like Bluetooth, right? Connects to the battery and then you can turn it on and off like that, or you can change your settings. So you have like I said, 15 different types of settings, and I'll scroll through them and change them randomly throughout the week. Like maybe your body gets used to that stim, right? That feeling of having that same type of like stim through your body. So you have to change them every once in a while so that it's like a shock to the system again, right?
Oh, yeah. So you don't have like a default setting that you leave it on?
There's one that I like the best for sure, right? And I go back to that one, but there's a couple other ones that I use when that one starts. I find that it's not like it's not working the same. I just try and get off of that one for a while and then go back to it later on.
Wow.
Is there a sensation when it's on? Like, can you feel anything like in your back when it's running, or that you can't feel anything?
At first, like, so when you first change that setting, you'll feel that like kind of like energy going through your body, right? Like the electricity, the current, whatever you want to call it. And then eventually it just kind of goes back to like normal where you don't really notice it. And it does help with like nerve pain. Like I never had really bad nerve pain, but now I don't have any, right? So it's been helpful for that, right?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Did you have any expectations going in, like, or was it so new that you weren't even really sure? Like, obviously they gave you sort of what they hoped would happen, but did you have any expectations specifically for yourself? And did it end up meeting with you the expectations that you had, or did you not have any?
Yeah, I tried not to go in with expectations. Okay. The idea was more just like, my focus was like, if I can help, again, the next generation, if we can make this system better, and if I can be a part of that, I'm kind of just like okay with that. I don't need it to change my life. I felt like my life was in a pretty good spot. I felt healthy. I did a lot of I used a standing frame. I work out. I had a job. I had everything was okay. So I didn't need this to make my life better. I wanted it to help the next generation. If I'm healthy enough and I owe it to our community to be hey, I have an opportunity here to help, right? So I kind of went in with that mentality. Saying that, of course, you're I hope I get something beneficial out of it. So if it's just spasticity alone, yes, please sign me up. I'm okay if that's all that comes out of it, right? So yeah, it was so I was happy and I'm beneficial. I'm still happy to this day. I'm very, very happy I went through and I was able to be part of the trial and I was lucky enough to do it.
I have a question, man. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but from my maths, you've been injured for 15 years, 6 years with the epidural stimulator, 6 years living with it, and you've obviously, from the short 20-minute conversation, it's benefited you immensely. So why is this not more widely available to people with spinal cord injuries, seeing as it seems to be the most promising treatment so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's funny because a week ago I was at the old rehab where I was injured, and I was talking to one of the physiatrists, and he was asking me about it and if I'm still using it and how's it going, and he really believes strongly that this is something that should be more readily available to people in our community, right? Yeah. One of the things I do know is people in Alberta, in Canada, in the States, they're starting to really use it for pain management, right? But it doesn't have the same settings that somebody would use it for movement or bowel, bladder, all those things. So it's already out there. We need more proof. We need more evidence that this is something.
How much more?
I know, right?
I definitely think that I was doing an interview with a company that's kind of coming up with something very similar, but it's an external stimulator. Yeah, and they're specifically targeting bowel, bladder, those nerve pathways to increase continence and things that make our lives really annoying, rather than let's, get somebody up and walking. They're really, really trying to hone in on specific areas that are problematic for quality of life.
Yeah.
So I'm really optimistic about that because it's non-invasive. I think they're probably going to be cheaper overall eventually because you don't have to be monitored as closely. And because it's a very narrow sort of scope of practice, then it's less complicated for the end user. So I'm really excited about that. I have no idea where that has gone. I just did an interview with one of the researchers that was trying to gather information in order to set up the trial. But yeah, I'm really curious why this isn't part of like standard rehabilitation practices, like why it's not standard of care in rehabilitation management. Like I just don't understand how expensive can it be? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it should be for sure. I mean, if this is something that's helping people, why not right from the start? And what would how much more benefit would it be if they could get it earlier on in the process, go through rehab with it, learn how to use it while you're going through rehab, while you're learning bowel bladder, while you're learning like doing the physio, and what would be the outcome then? How much more beneficial would it be? Who knows? It could be immensely beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Great insight. Yeah.
I was curious if there were any unexpected results or negative like side effects. Like, did you experience anything that were kind of not great?
Oh, that's a good question. I think and it's hard to think because if it's so minimal that it's not jumping to the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't stand out to the point where it's like affected my life negatively. The biggest thing was when the battery died, where I was off of it for a while and then waiting for surgery. And I was lucky enough to connect with one of the doctors that was part of the trial out of Calgary. And he was able to connect me with a lady that does, they insert these for pain management. And I was able to put it in as like a pain management issue and get a new battery. At this time we went with like a rechargeable battery.
Yeah,
so
nice.
I have to like lay down like on like a little mini battery pack, and it like charges my stim. Yeah.
Yes.
It's wild.
That was one of my questions actually. Like, how do you recharge the battery without surgery? And that's amazing. You're like a little iPhone. You've got like a little wireless charger.
That's exactly what it is. I am an iPhone now, and I get charged up. But and it's funny because it's something like at the start where I was like very focused on like every night trying to charge it for half an hour, and then eventually I was like, if I just don't charge it for a week and then just like sleep on it overnight, I wake up in the morning fully charged, ready to go. So
right, yeah.
It does get warm, not gonna lie. Like if I leave it on there for too long, it does. Your skin gets pretty warm. Yeah.
That's interesting. I know that there's like a lot of talk now about like EMFs, which are like, frequencies that come from our phones and all of the electronic devices that we have in our house, like our routers and stuff. So I'm curious just about like the long-term effects of having something that emits EMFs that's connected to your body, that's constantly being connected to something through Bluetooth. I have no idea. I don't even know like the damaging effects of EMFs. I just know that there's a lot of stuff floating around on the internet about protecting yourself from them, especially when they're all around us. So I'm curious about that in terms of like the long-term effects, but also quality of life for me is number one. So if something is going to take away pain, increase my ability to move and give me more mobility or reduce spasticity, then it's almost like, is it worth, reducing my life by 5 years in the long run? Probably, because I don't care if I live to 85 if most of it's miserable. Do you know what I mean? And there's a way to make it better. Not that most of it's miserable, but yeah, that's so interesting that it gets warm like when you plug your phone in.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
I have a question. So when the epidural stimulator is seen on like TV or YouTube or whatever, there's normally a guy, there's like the poster child for it. He's a guy in Switzerland. I'm sure you might have seen him, but he's in the walker and he's walking and he says, when it's switched on, I can walk. And when it's switched off, I can walk a few steps, but then it runs out. So with the focus being on mobility and getting movement back, I've got a two-part question. Can you walk at all, a little bit? And if not, does the small amount of movement that you've gained, does that help you in life? Like, for example, when I'm in bed, I think it would be just nice to like just get a little bit more comfortable, you know, and just move my leg just a little bit. That would make a big deal rather than like reach down and like yank my leg up, you know, while I'm sleeping. So yeah, there you go.
For me, I haven't been able to get to that point where I've gotten that good of movement, where I could stand or walk or even in a walker, right?
Oh, really?
I do believe that patient was an incomplete injury. Correct me if I'm wrong though, right? So I think maybe that's the gap. I'm not sure. But yeah, I haven't been able to. And again, like we have to remember, like that poster child is doing this all day long rehab, right? And we all know how much that can be beneficial, right? To do for our bodies and you know, trying to regain some sensation or movement like that. So I haven't been able to do that, you know, and I'll be honest, like over the time, the whole movement thing has kind of just died off, where to the point where, you know, for me to swing my leg on the edge of a table isn't enough to motivate me maybe to continue on, to get where the benefits are just, I've gotten the benefits that I've needed out of my life, where I don't need to walk. Everybody wants to walk. Don't get me wrong. I would love to get up and walk again. Everybody wants that, right? But not needing that to continue on and put that much work into rehab. And, you know, it's more about just the quality of my life is at a good point again, where you know, it's beneficial.
And it also depends what walking looks like. If it's like that guy and you can walk with a walker and it's really clumsy and you can't carry anything and it's not like before your injury, you're like, well, I've got relief from spasticity, I've got relief from nerve pain, I can regulate my body temperature and I can sleep better. Boom, that ticks enough boxes for me, man. I don't need to like wiggle my toes.
Sign me up. Totally.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest things that we learn after a spinal cord injury for some of us, that the juice is not worth the squeeze. Like getting whatever movement back that's actually not going to really benefit us, because it's not going to increase our mobility in a big way, because we're not walking with any stamina. We can't walk long distances. We can't walk without a walker. And it's just much faster, like ultimately, to just be in a wheelchair and use our arms to get places. It would be nice to be able to stand up and stuff, but there's plenty of people who have like spasticity, like Steve and I have a friend, Ricardo. He has decent enough spasticity that he can just like lock his legs out, stand up, get something from the high cupboard. And I think you can even do that, Fred, right? Sort of.
Well, when I get in my standing frame for about 5 to 10 seconds, I'm like standing without, you know, my legs are locked out. My tone is very strong, but I can't really stand up without
the standing frame.
I could. Realistically, if I had a walker, I could probably walk for about 3 steps, and that's just basically locking my legs out, moving one in front of the other, and then I'd eventually collapse when my spasticity wore off. But yeah, it's not very functional. Although recently, very weirdly enough, when I was on a plane, I managed to lock out my legs and then like bunny hop all the way down the plane. So by using like the seats. And I'd never done that before. I'd never thought about doing it before, but they were just taking ages to get the aisle chair. And I was like, oh, look at this. So, yeah, that's, I guess, it kind of something that's helpful. But overall, the tone is so much of a ball ache. I'd rather be without it.
Yeah, and I think if you have the time, the money, and the patience to want to do that rehab, I mean, like all the power to you. Like whatever you can gain. I met a subscriber of mine in California that she was an incomplete injury, but she spent loads of money, loads of time, and loads of energy on trying to walk again, and she can walk again. But I think it was like an hours a day type of ordeal, like 6 hours a day, something like that. And great, if you have the resources and the motivation, then yeah. But I was curious if you would mind sharing like what the investment was on your part in terms of like those trips, just for somebody that's like, you know, do I maybe have the money? Like, what did that look like in terms of an investment on your part?
So depending on where you're coming from, so from Edmonton,
obviously,
to Minneapolis, you know, a flight, you know, round trips, so it was probably around $1,000 every time.
Oh, that's like a month. Whoa. Plus all the hotels and stuff.
And that's like me and one other person. So I always come down with somebody. It was always like nice to have somebody around. But once you're down there, it was pretty simple. It was just like LRT right downtown. You stay in your hotel, you wheel to the hospital, do your checkup, hang out for the rest of the time, then fly home, right? So it's pretty simple. The investment was, fairly expensive. On the flip side, if you're going to go to Thailand or wherever to get this done, you're looking at, $100,000, right? Plus your stay, plus your flights, so it really was a small chunk compared. It was like a bargain epidural stimulator, if you want to put it that way, right? Plus the benefits of where, the research is going.
Yeah. We did have a question right here about, how much have the stimulators improved since the start. I was curious if you still keep in touch with the research team, if there's something that you have to do long term. Have you been able to keep up with the research in terms of if they've improved or?
So not them directly, but some, like I was saying, some of the doctors that were part of the trial way at the beginning, I still speak with, and other patients that have gotten it, I've spoken with. The idea now is that they're doing larger paddles. So they started off with a 16 channel, then a 32 channel. Now the idea is almost eventually from what I've heard or what they've been talking about doing is a full spine paddle. So it's going across the injury, and then it's kind of going to start controlling your more and more nerves are going to be, awoken, if you want to put it that way. Right. Yeah. So I think, I mean, the idea it's always going to get better. Right. And I think, I just don't know where exactly the time frame or where they're at with that. But I think, if that's the ultimate goal, imagine what that could do. If right now we're only sitting on a 32 channel, what is a 64? It's just reminds me of video games, right? They just always get better. Right.
Totally. I'm curious if anybody's watching either right now or after the fact. Can you please put in the comments if you do have an epidural stimulator that is more recent, and if they're different, how many channels sort of you were installed with or whatever, and what the process was like, just because I love it when there's one conversation that ends up being a bigger conversation in the comments. So if you're watching, put your experience in there.
So Colleen says, I had a neurostimulator inserted with leads placed on my sciatic nerves. It was supposed to help with bladder and bowel control. The tests worked well, but the permanent implant failed. I had it removed. Colleen, if you're still watching, I'd love to hear more information on that, why it failed, and if it did help. Like you say, the test worked well. I haven't heard... I guess you must have had a similar experience. So if you got a chance, tell us more about that.
I actually have he's a subscriber that used to watch, and I don't know if he watches anymore, but he was telling me about something that he had installed that directly stimulates his bladder, and he basically can control when to empty it. It was a very cool thing. And I was I can't remember the name of it. But I might actually try and find him again and see if he can come on here, because it works pretty decently for him, to control continence, and then just sort of turn. I don't know if he turns it off when he wants to have a when he wants to void or pee, but it was very cool. So there's all these weird things out there that are directed and stimulating different things. So I think it's really cool what we're kind of embarking on.
I'm pretty sure Richard from Wheels to Walking had one of those as well. It's that you can kind of turn it on and off to empty your bladder to stop you weeing yourself. Yeah, he had some good results with it, and he documented it on his channel as well. So
we just had a question here about whether you use a standing frame, Steve, or whether you have one and whether you use it. I don't know.
Yeah, I do have a standing frame. I think it's so important. I like to usually go down and play video games for hours on end, standing. And then that way it doesn't feel like you're just sitting. They're not sitting. You're just standing there, right? It's nice to... And I think the benefit too is part of it is keeping yourself healthy. I know, we never know where the advances are going to come from, or if there's ever going to be a cure, or if there is, you want to be ready, right? You want to keep healthy. If there isn't, you're still keeping healthy for yourself, right? So standing is so important. Keeping your bones strong, your joints, everything like that, your muscles. It's great, and it feels good, right? When you get down, so much less tone, so much less spasticity after I stand. I always find just even just digesting food sometimes. You have
Yeah.
a big dinner and you're just like, I'm just going to go stand up for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was actually reading, like, I was trying to read some studies because I'm going to do a video on like whether these expensive technologies are worth it after your injury for what they typically are like, said they're supposed to be good for, like bone density and all of that stuff.
yeah.
And I was reading study after study, and it was like they're increasingly finding out that unless it's paired with FES, it doesn't really do a lot for bone density, but it does do a lot for digestion, circulation, range of motion, spasticity, like all of these things that they were like, we are going to do it for bone densities, where it sort of came out with.
Yeah.
And then all of these other benefits are actually what it's proving to show, like
Positive.
benefits for. Yeah, positive things for. So anyway, I just thought that was really cool. And you're a big FES guy too, which is like interesting because Steve's one of the like only guys I know that doesn't have skinny legs, and he's had an FES bike. So if anybody doesn't know what it is, it's like functional electrical stimulation. You hop on a bike, stick some electrodes to your legs, they stimulate your muscles while you're cycling. And his legs are totally normal. And like you say, like you kind of want to be ready, because if there was ever like some technology, my bone density sucks. My legs are so skinny. I don't have great range of motion because I don't stand all of the time. I do stretch my my ankles and stuff, but my hips are really tight. So I do think that there is benefit to that in all of these technologies that seem really time consuming. But yeah, just being ready, like you say, is good.
Just making them part of my routine was the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Is just making sure I fit them in my day. If I don't stand, I'm for sure going to get some, like, I'm going to lay on my tummy for a while before I get dressed, or, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, making sure I stretch out that way. The other thing too, is like the FES thing for me was like, I was very self-conscious about the look of my legs, and I wanted my clothes to fit normally, or as normal as possible, and in a wheelchair, it's kind of tough to dress nice sometimes or feel comfortable in clothes.
Yeah.
So for me, like the FES was a big part of being able to like, maintain that muscle mass and grow the muscles to the point where it would fill out my pants. Made me feel all more comfortable about being in a chair, which really helped mentally, psychologically, right?
Yeah, totally.
That was important, and it helps a lot with like pressure sores, or you put them on your glutes, so you have like a little bit of mass that you can sit on, where you're not
Totally.
right? You're not lowering the risk of pressure, right?
Well, and also just being able to sit, like I can't sit on a hard surface if I don't have a cushion on it. Like my butt is so skinny that my tailbone is literally like skin to bone. And it's really annoying. Like when I went to Disneyland, I couldn't get on rides. If I couldn't get my cushion on it, they wouldn't let me take my cushion on some rides. And it was just really annoying. So like having the benefits of having extra mass, like you say, plus the other thing that's really good is it maintains metabolic tissue. So you can eat more. It maintains your blood sugar regulation a lot better. There's a lot of benefits. I'm going to do a video on FES and all of the like researched benefits of it. But there's just a lot of benefits to having excess mass on your lower half, other than maybe having to lift heavy ass legs.
Yes,
because that's harder.
And you know what? It is 100% noticeable too. Like my legs, if I'm using the bike more than not, like if I go on vacation and I'm on my bike and I can feel my legs start to deteriorate a little bit, they're so much easier to move.
Yeah. So I all the men that I like see that are newly paralyzed, that are like, 220 pounds or whatever, and they're just like solid muscle, and then it's like dead weight. It's really hard for them to learn how to transfer and to just drag their lower half around, because it's hard. And I'm sure you can attest to that, Fred. Like it was probably really difficult at the beginning before you lost a little bit of your, muscle mass below your level of injury to transfer.
I actually had the opposite, because my legs were
Really?
never massive anyway. But since the spasticity, it's much harder when my legs are wrestling against me to transfer. Like when I first got injured, they were completely flaccid, and it was very easy to move them. And I remember thinking, oh, this isn't too bad. And then like when my legs started firing, I was like, oh, amazing. Oh, I'm getting movement back. And then when like the spasticity got to the point where it is now, I was like, this is absolute torture. Why are my legs moving on their own? What a ball ache. But the good thing is, I haven't lost that much muscle mass because my legs fire all day long. And that does help, like we say, with muscle mass, like even looks, like, even just vanity metrics. I'm like, oh, look, I don't look paralyzed. I just look like I'm skipping leg day, you know. So I also, yeah, and they're not super heavy, but like, yeah. So there's lots of benefits from having the spasticity. I can sit down, and because I've got an incomplete injury, if I'm sat on something uncomfortable, I can feel it. I can get off. My bum isn't, like, the one bit that I don't have spasticity on is my bum, so that is kind of atrophied a little bit. But yeah, there are lots of benefits to having the muscle mass in your legs, for sure.
Yeah, totally. There was a question here from Graham that says, I was wondering if Steve could share how his accident impacted his life now or later. If you just want to share a little bit about like your journey after your accident in terms of your, like how you adjusted and all of that.
Yeah, I think like anybody, it's something you go through like this is pretty traumatic, right? And we all kind of heal and accept at our own pace. For me, I had one of my one of my doctors said that the first 5 years, usually people are, it takes before they decide whether they're gonna live or move on from their accident or not. And I so badly wanted to move on and have a normal life. So that first 5 years, I was like very like conscious of every second, every year. My anniversary, I'd be like, okay, 3 more years, 2 more years, 1 more year, right? And then waking up after like the 5th year, I just woke up. I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's good. Let's move on. And ever since that point, I never really looked back. I mean, I have good days and bad days, like everybody, right? Whether I was in a wheelchair or not, I would still have good days and bad days, right? So we just kind of look at it that way. The experience has always been challenging, right? At times, both, physically and mentally, but in a good way, where it's brought out the best in me, in me realizing like my strengths, and when I want something, what I want, I'm not scared to go after it. And I feel like part of that is going through something so life changing, and learning about yourself throughout that, and the fears that I once had about after my accident, like having a family, or being able to raise children, or what would they think of you, and what would life be like, now realizing how caring kids are, and how much they are going to help, and they understand, and they can see it, and they can feel it, and it just builds a better bond between you, right? And I think that's something that I was never really thought of, but has been one of the best surprises of being in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's so crazy, is that if you talk to anybody after their accident, the biggest fear is not walking again. It's always losing connection. Nobody's ever going to love me. I'm never going to get married, or I'm never going to find somebody to accept me. It's 90% of the time it's that. It's never like, now I can't snowboard, or that I can't bike anymore. Like, people are less devastated about that and way more fearful of the loss of connection. And it's so manufactured in our own brains, because it's not reality. I feel like, in my mind at least, I was just at the Glen Rose too, Steve, and one of the ladies that I work that's a rec therapist, she always like repeats what I say all the time, that staring is caring. Because whenever I tell people that are newly injured, I'm like, just get used to staring. Assume that those people are super caring. They're curious about why you're injured. They want to help, and they're not sure how. And so she's like, I always tell everybody, Brittany's going to say staring is caring. And I'm like, it's so true. I feel like being in a wheelchair has brought me more connection to people than it has the opposite. So if you can see it as a way to connect with people, to be more noticeable, to open up conversations with individuals, all of those things. And yeah, there's going to be plenty of people that won't love you because you're in a wheelchair, because it's just awkward for them. And some people won't put up with the quote unquote challenges. But there's, most people will. They connect with the person. And if they like the person you are, then they're going to like you no matter what. So yeah, I think it's been one of the biggest surprises for me too, is that there's more connection to other human beings being disabled.
I totally agree. I think being out there too in public and letting people see it raises awareness about the importance of accessibility. People, I want to get out. I want to be out there. I want to go to restaurants. I want to go to events with my family. I want to be part of that. And the more we do that now, hopefully the idea is the better that gets for the next generation again.
Yeah.
For it gets easier and easier, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Steve, I have a question. Do you have children? Did you have children after your accident?
I don't. I have. I call it a bonus daughter. So
Ah.
I'm with my spouse now. Had a child before, and we met when she was about 5, and she's going to be 11 now. Coming
Oh,
up soon,
nice.
August 7th. Yeah.
Oh, fun.
And yeah, we have a great bond. It's something different. One of the biggest things I noticed too is like, again, that fear, but being able to sit on my lap. One of the biggest things I noticed right away is in situations at the beginning when we were in maybe she was meeting somebody new or it was an awkward situation or she felt a little bit nervous. She would always be able to like just jump on my lap and just hang out and we would just talk. But it created a bond where, you know, if I wasn't in a wheelchair, I wouldn't be holding her for half an hour, right? So we would be able to.
Yeah.
So it created something kind of special that, you know, only we have, right?
Yeah.
And those are the things that you cherish and you know, grow from, right?
Yeah, that's sweet, man.
Steve and I, well, he's still a cheerleading dad, but our girls were both in cheerleading at the same time. So we went to I don't know, like probably 6 or 7 cheerleading competitions in a single year or whatever, where we got to be like the wheelchair cheering section for both our daughters. But it was really fun. She's still in cheerleading though. And he gets to still do that fun stuff where you get to go to the crowded cheerleading competitions.
Very crowded. And there's always somebody in the accessible bathroom, right?
Always somebody. No, I don't necessarily miss the competitions. I miss watching the girls though. It's super fun. And it's really fun to watch somebody that you love do something with their body that you can't do anymore. Like it's just such a weird thing to be able to be like, oh my God, like that's so amazing, and just be so proud of them. But
What a concept. Yeah, I never thought of that. But 100%, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna scroll through and see if there's any more questions for you that I missed.
While you're scrolling, I just wanted to share like a little anecdote with you. Just on the subject of like being injured and things that happened. Something happened to me last night, which was quite normal. But I remember when I was first injured, this would have been so wildly outside of my comfort zone that it just occurred to me like, oh wow, I just did that without even without an issue. So we were out watching the FIFA Club World Cup at a pub, and everything seemed like wheelchair accessible. But when I went to the toilet was down 2 steps, and there would have been a time where that would have bothered me. I'd have been like, oh my God, I can't go to the toilet. I just wheelied down the steps, like boom, boom. And these guys were like, oh my God, that was sick, bro. You sent it, whatever. Went to the toilet. And then when I came out, they goes, oh, do you want me to lift you up the stairs? I was like, that'd be great. And then I just got these guys to just lift me up 2 stairs, come back to the table, didn't even bother mentioning it. And they were like, did you go to the toilet? I was like, yeah. and even though that sounds like maybe wildly out of some people's comfort zones to like wheelie down 2 stairs, my point is like, I've got so comfortable now with being in the wheelchair and having these obstacles just being, they don't faze me, it's not a big deal. I don't like cry that there isn't something like totally accessible. Like do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I feel the exact same way. I feel like at the beginning, I would have ruined my day. I would have went home. I would have just complained. I wouldn't have been able to just be like, you know what? This is how it is now, right? Sometimes, I mean, if I can't get to a bathroom, I don't know. I'm being a guy. I'm lucky. I could just go outside, find a back alley somewhere, right? And I'll figure another way out to do it rather than just letting it ruin the day, right?
Yeah,
100%.
I had a similar experience recently when I went to Calgary with my sister. We went downtown to this restaurant for dinner, and I was wheeling there while she went to get something from the car. And I got there and there was just a big step up. It wasn't wheelchair accessible. The restaurant wasn't accessible. And I would have been like so upset about that. Like, oh, we have to go somewhere else for dinner. But all I did was there was like a couple going by. And I'm like, hey, dude, can I borrow your legs for a sec? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I just need bumped up this. Like, it was like a big jump, but I couldn't get up it. So his girlfriend opened the door. He bumped me in. And I'm like, thanks so much. And then my sister came and I was like, talking to her about how the front wasn't accessible. She's like, what? The front wasn't accessible? Because she didn't even notice.
Yeah.
And I was already at the table. And then there was no bathroom inside either that was accessible because the bathroom was up like 6 stairs and stuff. But I just didn't worry about it because I'm like, if I have to get to the bathroom, there's 2 waiters that are both like big cowboys. And I'm just going to be like, hey guys, can you just like, lift me up those stairs? And it wouldn't have bothered me at all because the people are so nice and it doesn't bother them either. Like you just ask them for 2 seconds if you can borrow their body and they're just like, yeah, sure, no problem. But yeah, I think it's those kinds of things that make you feel really shitty at first. And then you just get used to it. And if you can see it as a way, like I said before, to connect with people, then it's actually kind of fun to ask people for help.
Yeah.
You're teaching them something, right?
Yeah. There's just a comment here that said, I'm a year out. So I find the battle is how I feel about myself. I'm a year into it. But in public or at the gym, people are really nice. So it's sometimes not even the way people treat you out in public or things that are happening to you. It's our own self-perception. And I know for me, that was like huge. My confidence with my body image, whether I was sexy or desirable, those things were much bigger. So I don't know if you guys can relate to that at all.
You take that one, Steve.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was like what we touched on a little bit earlier is like, the FES, and the reason why I did it to begin with was for my image and to make myself feel better about myself. Eventually it was just all about like the benefits now. Like it was just a side fact was the benefits, but it was all about myself and how I felt. I think that there's a huge part of getting over the initial injury was just like getting over it and just being happy with like yourself and your confidence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And for me, like I go to the gym like 3 times a week, and I like to tell myself, oh, it's because having a strong upper body is good, like it's compensating for but also vanity. I like being in good shape because maybe I'm overcompensating, but like I'd rather be like the buff dude in a wheelchair than like it just makes me feel less disabled. Like Chris said this morning, my girlfriend, she just mentioned, she's like, you're like the buffest guy out of all of our friend group. And I was like, and I misheard her at first. I was like, who is? She's like, you. I was like, oh, am I? And then I was like, oh yeah, I kind of am. Like, I don't like walk around or anything, but I am. It was really weird that she said that. And I was like, oh, that's such a lovely compliment, but it's something I hadn't noticed. But like out of our friend group, I am the one that's in the best shape. There's some people that like drinking a lot. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but yeah, they're just like normal people. And I'm like the guy that works out 3 times a week and like watches what he eats. So like and that's directly after my accident. That's, I was always in fairly good shape, but I just didn't really care. But after my accident, I took my fitness very, very seriously. And yeah, I have to say like vanity does play a role in that. I want to look good, because I'm overcompensating for being in the chair,
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's funny, Fred, because I was just looking through your old Facebook like photos, because I was playing around with like some photos for like thumbnails, and you were a little soft before you were like when you were first hurt. I'm like, you were a little soft. I'm like, I'm gonna bug him about that, because you're definitely like really buff now. I didn't know you when you had a little layer on you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's mostly diet, especially with limited mobility, and like not drinking alcohol really helps because like alcohol is like empty calories.
Totally.
But yeah, like James actually messaged me recently on my Patreon saying like, oh, you're in great shape. What's the secret? And I said honestly, it's just consistency and diet. Consistency is better than perfection. If you go to the gym looking for a perfect workout, you might not get there every time. But if you just go to the gym 3 times a week and you watch what you eat, you will eventually start seeing results, and you might surprise yourself. Like I say, the days are long, but the years are short. You look back and you're like, oh yeah, I remember when I used to be like, I used to be that shape, but now I'm this shape. And I listened to an audiobook called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and as he was talking, I was like, oh yeah, like I've almost, I don't want to say accidentally, but almost accidentally got buff because I just kept going to the gym. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, you're in great shape, man. Like, look at you. You look great. And I'm like, I kind of do. Right? But I didn't, it kind of happened just because I was, you know what I mean?
There's a thing that I love about goal setting, and it always says never set results goals, set habit goals. So don't say I want to be you know, this many pounds and look like this. Say, I want to go to the gym every day for 30 minutes. And if you set that goal, the end goal ended up happening anyway, but you are setting things that are behavior goals rather than like results goals, because you can't control the result, but you can control the behavior. And I know that that's true for me too. Like I said, when I first started working out, that I wanted to lose my like parabelly or whatever and be confident in a bikini. And then I started working out and realized being confident in a bikini has nothing to do with my belly. It has to do with how confident I feel and how strong I am. And I don't think I lost any weight when I started working out initially in 2019, but I did get better posture, better balance, and all these things. And I, in fact, did become confident in a bikini because I set a habit goal instead of, you know, keeping that like bikini goal. Cause at first I was like, oh, I'm going to keep that. But then I was like, that's not going to get me there. I need to be like, I'm going to do this basic minimum, like, you know, exercises every day. And eventually I got there, whether I lost any weight or not. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. I just want to address this one comment before we like go. And then that lady did answer our questions for more information. So Jay says there was a restaurant in Calgary that said it was accessible. It had 15 stairs and I'm in a power chair, and that did in fact ruin my night. So I just want to acknowledge that there are people in 400-pound power chairs that if they go even a small amount of inaccessibility will in fact ruin their night. So I don't ever want to make it seem like, you know, oh, you just get over it. You just be happy when things are inaccessible, because there are definitely things that make your night ruined when you can't get around. So yeah, that sucks. It totally sucks, especially when they advertise that they're wheelchair accessible and then you get there and it's not, because you would have booked at a different restaurant had you known that. And that's like when the education piece has to happen sometimes. Like you have to call the manager and be like, hey, I'm not sure if you know, but somebody must have ticked the box on Google that says wheelchair accessible. So you might want to go check the, you know, whoever is taking care of your website so that they don't have that on there, because it really ruined my night. So yeah. Yeah. And then this one, you had asked for more information. So this was her.
Go on. I'll read it if you want. So Colleen came back. This was the lady with the neuro stimulator. She said that she had a remote control. I could change the level of nerve stimulation. The first, I had to recharge the battery. The second one, the battery was good for 10 years. I removed it when there was no benefit. Again, these are all things that are like, I want more information. Why was there no benefit? Why did it stop working? You know, you chose to remove it. This one seems like there's so much more questions. Maybe we can have a podcast with you, Colleen.
Yeah, totally. Okay, sorry, you were gonna say something before I
was just gonna say, just on the subject of that, because Steve was saying, you know, you could have a and you're a coloplast guy as well. So I was gonna say that if I couldn't get to the toilet, it's not that big a deal because I had shorts on. You know, I can pull my shorts up, and this has got like, you know, this has got a little handy little sack, and literally I could do it. My friends are very comfortable. I could like put a jumper over my lap and just do it, and it's not a deal breaker. I don't need to go to the toilet. I could just put this in my bag and empty it when I get home. So yeah, I just want to say these are like the Rolls Royce of catheters, man. These, I've tried so many different ones, and these are definitely the best. So that's another thing. Again, if you're in a power chair or you've got different needs to get to the toilet, that can ruin your night. But like I say, even if it was 10 stairs and there was no one to help me, there's always a way around that you know. Yeah. That wouldn't ruin my night, but it might have done like 6 months after my injury. Yeah,
I agree. I'm generally like, that's why I always, even as a woman, like I found a way to pee in my wheelchair without getting out of it, because I didn't want to have a bathroom ruin my night. Actually, that's not always true. Sometimes it does kind of ruin my night. I just went to a concert at the Calgary Stampede and the bathrooms were disgusting. It was super crowded. There was really no private place for me to go like pee. So I ended up just like, you know, not peeing for like a very long time, then ended up peeing my pants, and I ended up peeing in the car after. But so sometimes it kind of does ruin my night, but I didn't let it ruin my night. I was just like, whatever, I'm going to pee my pants. I'm going to enjoy the concert. I don't care. And then when I got back to my car, I'm like, yep, I peed my pants. My sister was like, whatever. So I went home and changed. But yeah, there's definitely like mindset, like things that you have to get over in order for your life to be happy. And, yeah, I don't really know what the formula is for that. How do you get over it or accept it? I don't know what the thing is that just eventually makes you go, okay, there's nothing I can do about it. Why am I wasting my time being negative about it? And I don't know what that is.
I think the answer is time.
Time. Yeah, that's true.
You kind of just wake up one day. That's how I was for me. I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm tired of complaining. I'm tired of, having
And you
those.
know what? Like that's like same old thing. If you argue for your excuses, you get to keep them. Or like some people have reasons, some people have results. Like if you focus on the things that are stopping you or the things that are pissing you off, then that is literally where your focus goes, your energy flows. Like it's just all these things that I've learned over the years, these little sayings and stuff that help me remember that I have to focus on the good things, even if there's bad things happening. Like sometimes bad shit happens. But if you sit there and focus on it, then it just makes you feel like crap. It's just,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, bad things are happening and now I'm getting focused on it. So then I feel even worse. No.
Having good quality people around you, I mean, is
Yeah.
massive too. Right? Like, let's give credit to the people around us that have been there to support us. They're there to, remind me sometimes, okay, there's nothing you can do. Just chill out, relax. Right.
Yeah.
So that always helps.
Yeah, I do. I will say again, I'm so blessed for all of the amazing people with disabilities in my community. Like, I can literally count 10 people that I know in my own community that are like really awesome, independent, positive, advocates, and they are very successful, like you, Steve. So I'm so glad for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
On the subject of surrounding yourself with good friends, this is Jay. He's the guy with the power chair. He said, I called them and they said it was wheelchair accessible, and then all of my friends ate without me.
Oh,
Mate,
dude.
I'm
You
sorry
need
that
some
happened.
New friends.
I think out of what's the word? Out of principle, I'd be like, let's go eat somewhere else, guys. Like we've got this guy with us. He's in a power chair. You guys said it was wheelchair accessible. You've lost our business, but I mean, maybe they were just really hungry. I don't know. Sorry, Jay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like one of those things where you're like, no, just go without me because it feels so bad that you've
Yeah.
messed up somebody's life. So a lot of the time it's our own, we push people to go do the thing. We're like, no, you go, I'm fine. And I've done that multiple times with like new moms or something that I'm around, and then something ends up not being accessible. I did that recently, and I can't even remember where we were, but I was just like, you guys go, it's fine. Oh, I was at a women's retreat and they were all going together to the airport in like one vehicle. But they like called an Uber that wouldn't have enough room for my wheelchair and the bags and stuff like that. So then I was the only one that like went to the airport by myself. And I was just like, they didn't think about it till the Uber came there, and they're like, oh, like your wheelchair is not going to fit in there with all the bags and stuff. And I was just like, it's fine. I'll call my own Uber. But I was like, it felt so shitty. Like I was like, oh my God, all the women and they went shopping and did a bunch of stuff before the like airport. And I was like, I am not taking an Uber, getting my wheelchair, my bags in and out and all that stuff. So I was just like, I'm just going to go to the airport. But it felt shitty. It felt shitty that I was just like, yeah, go on without me.
Sometimes that's the case. Hey, listen, I just wanted to circle back real quick to the stimulator. I heard, Steve, maybe you could clear this up, but the actual device that they implant is like an off-the-shelf thing. It's not like a specially made thing, because they can do it for like nerve pain and stuff like that. So why is it? Again, you probably don't know the answer to this, and maybe I'm just shouting into the void. Why is it so hard to get? Why is it so expensive for a start? And I remember looking at one like that Brittany said, which actually goes over the body, like what is it called, transcutanal or whatever. So it's not actually an implant; it just sits over, and that's $40,000. And I was like, how do they justify the price tag? Is it because obviously a lot of research and development goes into it? But how is such a small electronic device with such huge benefits so out of the price point for so many people that need it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a very good question. Even, and I believe for like someone for pain, so if somebody has a lot of neurological pain, they can get referred to a doctor to have one put in. So I do know some people in the community right now that have done it for pain. Ideally then, like if you're in a situation like that, maybe it could be adjusted. The parameters could be adjusted for more of a movement situation. So going from your pain doctor that inserts it, maybe seeking out somebody that has experience, and who knows how many people out there have that kind of experience, tough to say, right? But I know in Alberta, there's a couple doctors that can do it and they can adjust those parameters. I don't know why it would be so expensive. And it's frustrating for sure. Like you were saying, like in Alberta, in Canada, we do have like free healthcare. So why wouldn't this fall under like benefiting somebody for, quality of life, fall under free healthcare, why wouldn't it be accessible?
Yeah.
So it's tough to say. I know in my situation, because it was like a clinical trial, they had specific permits to insert these and they had to follow within certain guidelines, and there had to be like follow-ups, and there, it was kind of a more complex situation where if it's within the healthcare system, I think there is no follow-up, there is no, there's not as much attention to detail maybe, and maybe there's a gap there. Maybe, we need a specialist that does only this for, each province or country or territory or whatever you might be, right? I don't know if that helps, but yeah, it's tough. It's like you said.
I think because my dad recently got a knee replacement, right? And I could imagine, and that's helped him immensely, right? And that's an operation. You've put something in someone's body, like people get hip replacements. This is just putting something in someone's body. It's like you say, it was a procedure that was just, you were in the morning and you were out in the afternoon. Yeah. And the benefits has been so much more beneficial, or literally as beneficial as a hip replacement or a knee replacement. Some you could even argue more. I just don't understand. Again, I'm asking you like the answer to the question, but really I'm venting like, why is this not broadly available to the community? Because it's obviously I'd say one of the leading treatments.
Yeah, and hopefully like with trials like this and people participating in them and getting good results, hopefully that drives that narrative and creates a space for epidural stimulators being more common, right?
Yeah.
But you got yours 6 years ago, Steve. Like, I don't know why it's moving so slowly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like a no-brainer. Like, for me, the proof is in the pudding, right? What's the absolute worst that can happen? You put epidural stimulators in people and they don't work. Like, I don't know what the risk-reward ratio there is. Like, I feel like it would be a net positive for loads of people. And like you said, very good to get it in there early on. What benefits, because you were injured, 10 years, 9 years when you had yours? What if you had it 9 months after your injury, 6 months after your injury? What magic could happen there, like with the healing? Yeah, it's just, I feel like it's just the unexplored territory that is just, it's like an untapped potential.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of, especially with the socialized healthcare, there's a lot of bureaucracy in terms of bringing new things in that would benefit. And there's just a lot of antiquated practices. So there's in a system where there's no profit sort of for new technologies, there's no incentive to bring in those things. And then in the private sector, the reason it's so expensive because there's no incentive for somebody to introduce this to a new demographic or a new, area unless they're making decent amounts of money at it. So I think it's a little bit like a struggle there with socialized healthcare, no incentives, and then private healthcare is fully profit centered. And yeah, it just really sucks because the people that fall through the cracks are people like us that, rely on socialized healthcare and don't want to spend so much money to get these things. Cause yeah, I know plenty of people that go to Thailand for stem cell and all that stuff. And as long as you have 50 or 100 grand lying around, you're great. You can get all of these technologies and have wonderful healthcare experiences across the world. But who's going to pay that much, especially when, like you say, Steve, is the juice worth the squeeze? Are you going to get so much out of it? And because nobody is doing it en masse, then we're not getting the research or the results that we require in order to improve the technology. So I don't know. It's just, yeah.
You make a really good point as far as is the juice worth the squeeze? I think had I had to pay 100 grand and go to Thailand to do it, I wouldn't have done it. I don't think.
Yeah.
At the beginning, knowing what I know now and what the outcome has been, maybe it changes my mind. Maybe I do it, right? It definitely would make you think a little bit. It would have made me think a lot of it different knowing. The thought of going to get it done and paying that kind of money without the insight of actually knowing what the benefits are going to be after that's a very tough question you got to ask yourself. You got to be very confident with that, spending that kind of money on something like that.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem is that, people are waiting for the guinea pigs to go through the trials and be like, oh, I'm going to do that when, there's more proven results, but you can't get the proven results unless people sign up for the trials or they start doing it in private, practice or whatever. But Yeah, it's just it's an interesting thing. But you would think that if it's so beneficial and it improves things like your spasticity and all these things that are like secondary health complications that are costing our healthcare system a lot, you would think that they would send, physiatrists and things like that for training to do these day surgeries in rehab settings so that it's just a treatment like a baclofen pump.
Yeah.
Like we're going to insert a baclofen pump because we want your spasticity to be less. Well, this helps with spasticity too. So we're going to send somebody for specialized training to insert these things. Like it doesn't seem like it's rocket science.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's the price of a baclofen pump compared to this? Like, I don't know. But like with the other benefits that come with it, where a baclofen pump's one benefit, like why wouldn't we? Right?
You know what? This is interesting because I have an appointment with my neurologist coming up, and he's so good at answering my questions because I come like armed with like studies and stuff. So I'm going to ask him, what's the barrier to entry for these epidural stimulators? Like, why are we not putting in these in somebody's back when we're fixing it up? Like, why are we not doing this? Like, why? It's something simple, and I'll see what his answer is.
Yeah.
I
can't wait to hear.
Yeah.
Listen, before we wrap up, there was one more question I wanted to highlight. This one is from Go-Go Yo-Yo.
Oh.
They're starting to use Ozempic for myelin repair. The study started for MS here in the US. Going to interview for a trial in 2 weeks. I do believe this was the same guy who said he's been injured for a year. I don't know if that's like the injections. I have no idea. I'd love to know more about that. I probably I don't know if they inject Ozempic straight into the spine or whatever, but that sounds promising. Any other treatments that are out there that I think are really fantastic? I've never heard of that one before.
I am actually reading a lot of like good things coming out about like the benefits of Ozempic, which is like a diabetes drug actually. And so I'm curious too about Ozempic if it does have like nerve sort of repair benefits and it has protective nerve things, if they're going to start using it for metabolic syndrome for people with spinal cord injuries because we gain weight. Typically, a lot of us gain weight and we get metabolic syndrome. And then if it's also like protective for our nerve health, then I'm very curious about it in the future of spinal cord injury research because I've been reading some things. So I'm interested where that's going to go to.
Yeah, I've personally heard some fantastic things about Ozempic that are unrelated with weight loss.
Yes.
Like apparently it's more, you're more disciplined, like you're more likely to stick to habits, and it's fantastic. It seems like an absolute wonder drug, so I'm looking forward to seeing and if it can help with spinal cord injury, that would be incredible. But it does sound a little bit too good to be true at the moment.
I know.
I mean, who knows?
It's got heart protective things too. My mother-in-law is actually she has diabetes and she's on no, I can't remember what it is. It's a different name, but it's an oral pill instead of an injection. Same drug though. And she was actually switched to it because of the heart protective effects to prevent heart disease. So there's a lot of things that it's kind of one of those things that somebody like threw into the world of like medicine that they're like, oh, we're going to do it for this. But then they're finding all these other things. Now the research is crazy. And because there's a bazillion people ready to line up to take it because they don't want to be fat anymore. That's like, that's a bad way to say it. Then there's all the research. So now we know partially why some things take off and some things don't.
Yeah.
$.
There you go. James is on it. He's like, I think I'm going on Ozempic. I think everyone wants to go on Ozempic.
I seriously I'm going to tell my mom to go on it because she's having such a hard time losing weight. I'm like, if it's like a tool to get you to a spot that makes you feel healthier so that you can exercise easier and it's less arduous and painful and all that stuff, then I'm like, why not? Especially if there's very few side effects or rare ones. I don't know. Yeah.
Right, before we wrap up, do you have any more questions, Brittany, for Steve?
I don't think so. I think I asked all of them. I just checked a while ago. I just want to thank you, Steve, so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to leave, the people watching with about the experience?
No, I think I got most of it. I think it was a great experience. I'm very happy I went through with it. Hopefully, we were talking about, this is something that continues to catch on, and eventually this is something that we have better access to. But I mean, again, thanks for inviting me on. This is wonderful. I love talking about my experience. I love talking about being in a wheelchair, right? I love talking about life.
Yeah, you were a great guest. Thanks so much for coming.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Steve. Like I say, I think all my questions were answered, and also the questions from the Patreon. They all came up. That we all had the same questions really, and you answered them really well. Thanks so much for sharing your story, man. I'm a little bit jealous. I really want one now. I feel like it's just a no-brainer. I think, like I say, anyone with a spinal cord injury could benefit from it, even if it's just easing the spasms. That would be so beneficial for me. But because I've got an incomplete injury, any sort of voluntary movement, any benefit, like I say, I think it's a incredibly promising treatment, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Awesome. Okay, well, we will catch you back here next week, everybody.
See you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.